am Christina, and I've been a life coach for a little over 5 years now, and we are here to talk to you guys and get a little bit more information. Courtney, why don't you introduce yourself? I've got my business partner, Courtney, here.
Hey everybody, I'm Courtney Sykes, and I'm so happy to be here today. I'm with The Art of Wholeness. I've also been a life coach for about 6 or so years, and I'm excited to talk about effective feedback today.
Oh, effective feedback. Oh, feedback. Okay, so feedback is something that has so much impact, I feel like, on other people, don't you?
For sure.
I mean, I think it could really make a huge impact on someone to give effective feedback on any situation. I mean, in a conversation or relationship. And there's so much stigma around feedback.
Like what's okay, what's not okay to say.
Yes, and or maybe just tippy-toeing. You don't really want to hurt anyone's feelings, so you kind of avoid talking about what you really think, or maybe that something's brought up in your heart and that you want to share with somebody, and you tend to just kind of there's those that are, you know, you're real hesitant. I feel like hesitation is an easy thing.
I think for me, oftentimes when I notice myself hesitating to give somebody feedback or resisting it, or I'm worried I'm going to hurt their feelings or offend them, or, you know, something like that. When I know when it's, you know, genuine, or we'll talk about all the different ways when it's ways to give effective feedback.
Yes. And so we're here to help get clear on what effective feedback really is and how we can be effective in giving and receiving feedback, because we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. We don't want to make somebody feel bad, but we also don't want to lie to them, right? So I think today's conversation is just really going to be surrounding how we can be effective in our feedback and giving it and receiving it, because we really talk to ourselves when someone else is giving us feedback too. Yeah. Mine can easily go somewhere that that maybe it doesn't feel good, and it's kind of so I think let's just dive right in and just talk about the stigma around it.
Well, and I was also going to say, a lot of times, like Christina and I talk on the phone almost every day, and we have coaching conversations and regular conversations, but oftentimes it's like our conversations have coaching conversations in them. And so we thought, well, why not? Every time we have these moments where we get through and we like work through something, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. Like I feel so much better than I felt before I called. So we thought, well, why not share that and have real life, you know, coaching conversations where Christina and I talk about stuff that we talk about, because we live in the coaching world and we love life coaching and helping people, and you know, people getting what they want. And one way to get more of what you want, for sure, is knowing how to give and receive effective feedback. So
yes, and
we're just going to kind of talk about it today.
Yes, and we just want to just be raw and authentic and just have a true conversation about it, because it's a very important topic that we tend to work on and talk about a lot. So first, I think that talking about the stigma itself, what is how come people don't want to give feedback? How come we are hesitant on giving someone feedback? If it's really how we feel, then why aren't we just talking about it?
I guess I'll speak for me personally, and I kind of already did when I said, you know, I think about, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or, you know, I always want to make everybody happy. But why other reasons I might not want to are, like, I might not even sometimes want a reaction back that I'm worried about, or I'm trying to think of different, you know, reasons why
I love that, because it is scary sometimes. It's scary to ask for feedback too sometimes, because it's like, oh, do I really want to know what they are thinking? But you know, there's a belief system, you know, that really that I believe are surrounding this feedback. So when we're talking about feedback, it comes from a deeper place of what we believe. When we give someone feedback, like when we tell them what we think about what they're doing, what they're saying, it really stems from what we believe as far back as when we were little kids. Right. And it comes from what we think is right, wrong,
like good. I always had, I definitely had my mom saying it sometimes, and I've probably said it at some point in my life. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yes.
Or, you're not allowed to say that to an adult, or you're not allowed to say that to your boss, or you're not, like there's all these rules on what's okay to say, or okay, or what's you're not allowed to say. And
there's so many limitations, but the right, wrong, or something's too bad, like you said, don't say that to someone, it'll hurt their feelings. It's too bad to tell them that. They can't handle it, and we all can handle feedback if we are receiving it properly and effectively. But what we believe is good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, beautiful. I mean, those are belief systems that we can talk about in another segment, but that is kind of where our feedback naturally will stem from, right? I mean, I would say that kind of what we would give someone feedback on would kind of be like what we believe.
Yeah.
And it's easy to kind of just give someone feedback on what we believe is right or wrong. And that doesn't mean that they're being right or wrong. It's that's what we believe. And it's okay that that's, that come from where that might be what you're believing, but that's not what they're necessarily believing. And that really can play a big impact on how we're giving our feedback too.
Well, and I think it also goes into like what's our, like, yes, there's belief systems in feedback and not giving feedback. So oftentimes I think one thing that's helped me step into being able to give and receive effective feedback is not taking it personal and not giving it so much of a, like, as a judgment. And yes, there might be some of my opinions, and naturally those things come in, but it's my, like, what's my come from? Am I coming from a place of like, hey, Christina, I want to share what I experienced with you the other day, or hey, you made this video, would you like some feedback on it? Like, or hey, to my husband, I really want to share with you how this conversation that we had like made me feel, or
yeah, and
all different things. Like, so my come from could be, I like to I would like for my come from to be from a place of love and freedom, and for the person who I'm sharing it with to feel like they can grow in what I'm saying. And in receiving, feedback, I mean, I'll go back into that because that could be more, but recognize your come from. So like, let's say I'm in an argument with my husband, or you're in an argument with your significant other, and you've gotten to a point where the argument has settled and you're trying to work things out. Well, I've realized this is a great time for Scott and I to give each other feedback. And not that it's always comfortable, I think I said that, but noticing my come from. So am I sharing what I think of, am I giving him feedback from a place of love, or am I giving him feedback from a place of like, I'm pissed off, or I don't agree, or, judgment, or things I don't like about something? Like, so I like to recommend, and I like to think to myself, like, before I give feedback, to really think about how come I'm giving the feedback. Like, why do I want to tell him this? Why do I want to share this? Is it because I want something? Or is it because I want something better for our relationship? Is it, I mean, that's just...
I love that. I mean, that's a perfect, clear explanation. And two, how are we not only giving feedback, but a gentle feedback too. I feel like if somebody's not used to having feedback, or somebody doesn't necessarily feel comfortable, and you sense that they're maybe uncomfortable, and yet you want to share what you're thinking, then ask permission. Ask if they would like some feedback, or if you do give feedback, then it's not going. You don't want it to be harsh or hurtful or insulting. That's not feedback. That's insultment or insulting. And so, but when you truly are coming from a place of being genuine and authentic and caring and loving and feeling like, okay, because Courtney, I would genuinely love giving you feedback in a specific area because I want you to grow as a person. I want you to be better, and I know you want to be better. And it wouldn't be honest of me to not give you the feedback if I think it could be holding you back. But I would also want to be respectful in a way that it's respecting you wanting their feedback. And if you are like, no, please don't talk to me, don't give me any feedback, I don't want your opinion, you know what, that's okay. I don't have to give the opinion or the feedback. It's different opinion and feedback. And
I have had people, in my life be really straightforward that, there's times when they don't want my feedback or they don't want my opinion or, they actually don't want to go further. And that's the time where I have to step back and be like, okay, that's okay. Yeah, I think it is important to ask for sure permission, especially someone that Courtney and I don't ask permission for each other to each other that often anymore because we just kind of are naturally able to give each other that permission. We know it's coming. Yes, and it's we've crossed that barrier. But when it's something new and it's something you're practicing and trying it out, then I would highly recommend to ask permission. Right. Think about what you're saying. Think about, is it coming from a place of being judgmental? Is it coming from a place of just what you think is right or wrong? Or is it truly coming from a place of because you love that person and because you believe that they're ready for to be growing and so I also wanted to talk about on receiving feedback. Mm-hmm. So so far we've talked a lot about like giving effective feedback, and maybe we should give an example, or do you want to do that at the end about? So at the end we'll give an example, and we'll Christina and I said we'll actually give each other feedback on how we think that this talk went, and so you'll get an example of how we give each other feedback. And as far as so receiving feedback is, let's say that you're not having like a agreed conversation with someone where they are lovingly or from a good place giving you feedback. Let's say it's with a stranger or somebody. It could be with anyone, let's say, and they say something about you that you in your heart know is not true. You'll notice, or I notice the times, like let's say I'm having an uncomfortable conversation and someone comes at me with something that like, I just don't like that, or it just that feels hurt. Bad, and it doesn't even have to necessarily. Let's say it wasn't from something loving; it was just from somebody. So receiving feedback, one thing that I have loved and that has allowed me to, in coaching terms, like keep my power and not give my power away, or in other words, like I can still feel good about myself even though someone else might be saying something I don't like, or like even kids at school who get bullied, things like that. So in receiving that, and the way that I don't give my power away is I can take into consideration what they've said. There's a reason that they said it. Mm-hmm. Usually, in my experience, most of the times the reason has to do with things that they personally believe, things that they, like their belief systems, their filters, their judgments on me. And that's them. Like that is on them. Does it make it right if somebody says something hateful? I'm not saying it makes it right, but I'm not talking about right or wrong today. So the way that I like to keep my power is I can receive that and think, how could some of that be true? Mm-hmm. Like maybe there is some of that I don't like, because maybe there is a piece of me that has a little bit of whatever they're saying in there. And me being confident in knowing who I am and what I'm about and what I'm for, and not taking it personal and letting it be like taking into consideration, but not taking it personal has been a huge relief for me, and just more empowering. Yes. Empowered. And I gotta say, I've used this same thing when talking to my children. I mean, it's when they get mad and frustrated and come at me like, no, I don't want to do that chore. Why are you making me do that? Or they don't do something and they're disrespectful. Kids are definitely immediate feedback of how we can be. Yes, but also though it's really easy to take their behavior personal, mm-hmm. and
we don't have to take it personal. We can choose not to take it personally, because really it's them controlling themselves and their behavior.
Learning how to control themselves.
Yes, a child obviously is still learning. And so when someone else is doing or saying something, for me, I love that, the power. I mean, when we give our power away, we lose control. And that's kind of a good sense as to how we know we're losing our power, or we're giving our power to someone else. When they're saying something to us, maybe giving us feedback, and we're starting to get angry, frustrated, heated, or sad, crying, those times is red flags. You know that you're taking it personal. I mean, you're internalizing those things and making them be about you instead of them.
Yeah, and not to mix this up in any way with an abusive conversation.
Oh, absolutely
that's
not.
Different.
Yeah, that is completely different. And so receiving feedback can really be wonderful when it's done effectively. If you take it with a consideration, and no, it's not completely true. That doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means, I wonder how that could be. I wonder how that could be true. Or how parts of that could be true. So, and it may just, none of it could land on them. And
I love that, thinking that. Like, I like that you said that. It makes me think, like, really asking myself, like, how could this be true? And I can consider it and see some ways. Or I could be like, I don't see it, but at least I considered it.
Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't consider it, how is it going to help you grow? Because if someone's giving you feedback, then if you're completely shutting it off, then it's easy to just kind of keep going the same way, and not really grow from that. And so your friends, family, people give feedback all day long, every day. You just don't realize it. You know, you get feedback everywhere. And we were talking about physical feedback.
Yeah, I was like moving. Yes, that one.
So, you know, physical feedback is a lot too.
So what Christina's saying, like, that there's, like, so my husband's not always like a man of many words, but he gives feedback all day long. You know, I don't always have to get a verbal response or have a verbal conversation to know what he is or isn't wanting. And same thing for me. It's like, I won't say something, and you know, but
that's
you know, in the
feedback.
I don't always have to say something to. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
I hear you.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, if your husband is slamming the door instead of saying anything, then you know they're pissed, right? You know they're mad, and so that's feedback. That's a way of them giving feedback.
Yeah,
and you know, you can either take it as, wow, I'm really mad that my husband's mad, or whoever it is that's mad, or I can take it to heart, like, oh, I'm so sad, what did I do wrong? Or you can just consider, okay, they're angry. How come? How could I have maybe given feedback differently? Or how can I give feedback here on out?
Yeah.
And it coming from a place of love and respect.
So that also makes me think of, we made a little note to not miss certain things. And I was thinking about getting clear. You said if you give feedback and you're not getting the response that you want, or I guess I'll speak for myself. If I give feedback and the other person I'm not getting like the reaction that I'm thinking I'm going to get, or the response I think I'm going to get, I have to take some time and reevaluate and think and like get clear. Mm-hmm. So getting clear on what I want to say and what the impact I'm trying to make, that helps me a lot too.
That's been a life changer for me.
And when I notice when I speak clearly, like when I'm clear about what I want or what I don't want, and I deliver feedback that way, or when I deliver anything that way, when I'm clear, it is so much better. Yes. I mean, 100%. Yes. And it feels good too. It really feels good to be clear on what you want and honest. Like we were talking about that earlier. We don't want to tell our husband, or anybody when we're trying to give them feedback. We don't want to lie. If we're really truly feeling something else, it doesn't mean you have to say it in a rude or hateful way, but it certainly is. It's important to be honest. I mean, do you want to be lied to? Some people do.
Some people maybe. Well, you could ask them. I don't want to be lied to. But I certainly don't want to be, don't want to feel also like I'm being disrespected. So I think there's a middle line there, and there's some other things there. But being clear is huge. I'm glad you brought that. I mean, that's it. Being clear and not just feedback, but in completely anything and everything you do. When you are absolutely sure of what you want, and you can deliver it in a clear way, and it's incredibly powerful. I mean, would you say?
I would say. Well, I also thought about the honesty part. It made me think of the uncomfortable conversations and the uncomfortable feedback that Scott and I have had, like where he's told me things that came from a good place, but it like really went deep. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was something that I needed to hear, and something that he wanted to push me to be the better me that he knows and that I know I can be, and that we will continue to be. And there was things that I shared with him that it was like, I really hesitated on a few things for a long time. And then after going through like learning how to be a life coach and having life coaching conversations, I finally was able to have these uncomfortable conversations with him and found a way to be able to communicate and give him feedback that it was not comfortable. I would say it did hurt his feelings, just like when he had said certain things. It hurt my feelings, even though it came from a place of love. But those uncomfortable conversations and that feedback is what took our relationship and took my life to the next level. Mm-hmm. Like, and it took, all those things take time. But man, those uncomfortable conversations and those feedbacks that were really like, that are there and that you see that I saw would make a difference if it happened. Mm-hmm. And when we had them and we finally like went through them, it was so much better. So much better. And it still happens. And like, it comes up again, and
I mean, really, how much do we grow if we're not giving effective feedback or receiving it? I mean, do we really grow into a better person or into this vision of the person that we want to be? I mean, we all have a vision of who we want to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we're giving each other effective feedback, it can really make a difference between where they're staying stuck here, and your feedback can really impact them enough to just push them to the next level and just help them grow. And I mean, even friends, family, like children, you can give your kids feedback. I mean, it's a little different, but you can give anybody feedback. And so let's talk about when and where is a good time that, is appropriate for feedback. I mean, I would say first, let's start with like, if you're having a conversation with a friend, you don't necessarily ever talk about in-depth things, but it's very very good relationship. You are very bothered by something that they keep doing, and it's not because you think they're wrong in doing it. It's because you think that it's holding them back, maybe.
It makes me think of the saying, like, what you resist, it persists. So if there's things that are bothering you about your friends, now I'm not saying everyone's going to receive it well, but thinking about and getting clear about what it is that isn't working in that friendship. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, or also I was just thinking about maybe you're holding back some feedback that you want to tell them, but you're afraid they're going to get upset. Mm-hmm. When in the conversation is a good time to say something, to maybe bring it up?
I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking anytime, but that's not necessarily true for everybody. When is a good time to bring it up? I mean, I wouldn't do it in front of a bunch of people. I wouldn't. I mean, if it's something that's uncomfortable, I wouldn't call them out. A lot of times I think people like wait till there's a moment and then they nitpick and make little comments instead of really getting clear on what they want to say and then telling their friend. Mm-hmm. Like a friend's friend, they shared with me that one of their friends something had bothered them, and they waited like either a month or 3 months. It's been a while now since I heard the story, but a month or 3 months till they finally told them. And then it was like they worked it out that day when that person had been mad for like a month. And so it's like, why not? That's what made me think of the, what we resist persists. So I guess when is
well, something that comes to my mind is maybe not around a lot of people, like you had said, and also maybe feeling them out, because if they're in a frustrated state of mind, or if they're really disappointed or sad or having a hard day, I mean, you don't want to come at them and make them feel like you're attacking them. So I think it'd be really good to kind of, what is the conversation energy level? You know, is it comfortable? Is it calm? And then you can go ahead and say, like, would you mind if I give you feedback on that situation? I feel, or I've been thinking about something. I've had some things on my mind. Would you mind if I share them?
Yeah.
And would you be open to that? I feel like that would be, and that could be any time, but certainly, you know, there is a good time to give feedback, and it's not all the time every day.
Another example I think of, like, when and where to give feedback, I think a lot of people resist giving their bosses feedback. I think there's a lot of people who are either intimidated by their boss, or they view their boss on a pedestal, or maybe their boss doesn't want feedback.
Yeah. I mean.
But I've noticed, like, because I've even been the person sometimes where a coworker will come to me like, hey, can you talk to the manager about so-and-so, because I'm comfortable having this conversation. It's like, so really we just want to encourage and empower people to know how and when to be able to give that feedback, even to a boss. Or so does that make you think of, have you ever had a time where it's like uncomfortable to tell a boss something? Or
I mean, I do think that there's a time and a place to talk to someone that's not a close person, someone that's in the business setting. I certainly think that it's a good thing, a good rule of thumb to make a meeting, set up a meeting for them, with them, and make it a point, make it intentional, and have them, you know, you can lay out what your thoughts are and what your feedback is, and
definitely get clear when you're
get clear first, absolutely. And then and ask yourself, write it down, you know, maybe write down the feedback and look and read it, have someone else even read it, and say, how does this sound? Does this sound judgmental? Does this sound disrespectful? Where is this coming from?
Yeah. So
if it is a very neutral feedback, then go for it. I mean, set up the appointment. I think that's great. And so let's talk about how to be brave when giving feedback. Okay. I mean, it can be scary, right?
It can be.
It can be scary. It can be a little bit, like, I keep using the word hesitation, and I certainly I've known myself to be hesitant on giving feedback until I started learning what feedback really is. And it's communicating growth. I mean, it can really be a powerful thing. So, first thing is being clear.
Yeah.
I think that is absolute. I believe that it will give you the braveness and the courage if you're clear, first of all. Because if you're not clear, you're probably going to feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if it's coming from a place of being jealous or judgmental or angry, it's probably not going to feel comfortable that way either. And it may not always feel comfortable. Like, I mean, you have had a great example with you and Scott. I mean, with your conversations and giving feedback.
It's definitely not always comfortable.
No. But just being sure and being aware and noticing when you're coming from a place of judgment and you're wanting to encourage the person when you're giving feedback. You know, you want to give them feedback in a way that it leaves them feeling like, you know, they want to grow. And
what makes you feel brave when you give feedback? Like, if you were going to sum it up in like 3 words, like, what makes you feel brave in giving feedback?
I'd say being clear, coming from a place of love, and being authentic.
I like that.
I like to speak what comes to my mind when giving feedback, and my instincts too, what's speaking to me internally, and it not just being something I read in a book or you know, or saw someone else or heard someone else talking about for them.
Yeah.
What about you?
So 3 things that would that make me feel brave when giving feedback. I definitely think being clear. When I'm clear about why I want to give the feedback. when I feel that what I'm going to share might take my relationship to the next level. And what else makes me feel brave when giving feedback? I keep wanting to say when I'm clear about this, when I'm clear about that. Looking at my intention, like knowing what my intention is. So, and like that also makes me think about like intention and impact. Like if my intention, I might have the best intentions in giving feedback, but my impact might not be what I was hoping. And that's when I readjust and I think about it differently and think, okay, well, that's when I just reevaluate. I already talked about it earlier, but to summarize.
Step back a little bit and take a moment and just kind of think about, okay, how can I redo this? How can I reevaluate this situation or conversation? Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
We've
probably talked longer than we think we have.
Yeah, we probably have. And so what do you think about giving each other feedback now?
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You want to go first?
All right. I'll go first. To give you feedback, right?
Yes.
Okay. Courtney, during this session, I've experienced you as bold and clear, confident, and I also experienced or noticed that you mess with your necklace a lot. So it did make me wonder of the moments that you spoke that you're fidgeting with your necklace. How come?
Okay.
And I noticed that you didn't talk with your hands as often as you used to, or that you typically do. And I noticed that you're just a beautiful woman.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so my feedback for you is I love how much you smiled during this video. And I think that most of your messages were really clear. I liked how much that you looked at me when we were talking, and then also that we looked at the camera. You talked with your hands more than I feel like you usually do. What else?
It was making up for yours.
Why is she moving her hands? I think that's mostly it. I'm also super glad that we did this today. I know that's something we've been talking about. So feedback, like I think the way that we communicate back and forth was good, and how we mixed it up was good. And
yeah, I mean, I think the whole format went really well, and I feel good about it. And I love that we got to share and talk more about feedback, because we've been really wanting to do this for a while. And we have so much that we want to share and so much that we want to talk about. And we cannot wait until we can continue just putting it out there and hopefully, helping someone or empowering someone. We would love to hear your feedback too. So Be brave, give us some feedback.
Yes, please.
And be honest, okay? Because we really love feedback. And what you guys can do is go to our Facebook page or our group and join our group.
Join the group. It's awesome.
We're calling it Empowerment Community because that's what it is. We're building our community. So at The Art of Wholeness on Facebook. And then you can also follow us on Instagram at the.art.of.wholeness. I know that's kind of long. So hopefully we'll see you there, and we can't wait to come back and do this again.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, God.